Hey guys, hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving to those who celebrate in America. And welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to bring you my review of the latest adaptation of an August Wilson play, being The Piano Lesson, directed by Malcolm Washington, starring Samuel L. Jackson, John David Washington, Ray Fisher, Michael Potts, Erykah Badu, Skylar Elise Smith, Danielle Deadwyler, and Corey Hawkins. And this story follows Boy Willie Charles, played by John David Washington, as he goes and visits his Uncle Doker, played by Sam Jackson, and his sister Bernice in Pittsburgh, when he tries to get the family piano from them and sell it off so he can get a slice of land back home in Mississippi. Now, obviously, I've heard a lot about this film coming out of the festivals. Unfortunately, I missed it there, but, I knew in due time it was coming on Netflix, and I was hearing, pretty average to positive things about it. Very much more of a muted response as opposed to the previous two August Wilson adaptations, being Fences from Denzel Washington in 2016, and, of course, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom in 2020, which obviously was a big bid for all the actors involved in both those movies, Denzel, Viola Davis, and the late great Chadwick Boseman. So these movies are always big prospects for acting when it comes to awards season, obviously. So it made sense that there was definitely going to be a lot of eyes on this one. And of course, this being a whole family affair this time with the Washingtons, with Denzel producing, his son Malcolm directing, and of course his son John David starring in it. Now, a lot of the consensus has been, since it is premiered, that it is the weakest of the three adaptations, and I will concede, I think that is definitely true. But I still think that this movie is far from being mid, as some people have suggested it to be, but I can completely understand on the same token how many people might be disappointed by this one as opposed to those a bit stronger adaptations. And I think a lot of this comes down to how much you will get on the actor's wavelength here, because some of these performances are truly great, and some of them feel like they would be really great on stage. And I think this movie kind of struggles to find its own footing as a cinematic adaptation. Sure, I think this one goes out of its way and does more cinematic things, takes more risks than the other films, but I ultimately feel like a lot of those decisions feel a little bit awkward and out of place, because what this movie does, it utilizes a lot of flashback sequences, and some of them just feel like they're jarring and come out of nowhere. Some of them feel rushed, and it almost feels humorous to a certain point. And also there's some other elements of the story, perhaps the supernatural, that are very interesting, but I think sometimes distract from the narrative at hand, but also at the same time it's conflicting because they are pretty effective. And I think where I kind of fall on this movie as well when it comes to its script is there's a lot of interesting things that are kind of set up but go nowhere. And maybe that is the same for the play, I don't know. But I think there's so much of this movie that is so strong. Like, the best scenes in this movie are absolutely incredible. And I think there is a lot to take away from this story, what it has to say about, the roots of slavery and, the American dream and what that means to, a black family in the middle of the Great Depression. I think this movie speaks to a specific generation in time, but also, just to black America as a whole. And I think that sort of trauma that the movie is trying to unpack, and that generational kind of bearing that a lot of people have to carry, is explored extremely, extremely well. And I think these characters are all very interesting, at the very least, even though some of them feel a little bit underdeveloped, or at least, a little unexplored, especially with Boy Willie, played by John David Washington here. Now, one thing I have to say about John David in this movie, there were certain points where I swore it was Denzel. Like, just the voice, just the look, like he's a dead ringer for his father in a couple scenes in this movie. But as opposed to his daddy, he, I think he kind of overacts a bit. And I think that's the whole movie, is him just, shouting in a way that I feel like, okay, like, obviously this guy is talented, but outside of BlacKkKlansman, I don't think he's really given a performance that has truly, gotten him to that level of recognition, even close to what his father usually receives. And, of course, maybe that's a bit unfair to compare him to Denzel. But, it's just, considering how similar they look and sound, like, it's hard not to. And I will say, I haven't seen Malcolm and Marie yet, and I hear he's really good in that, so I still have to reserve a bit of judgment. And I do think, like, he's definitely not bad in this movie, but that is my biggest problem with this film. Everybody's, like, on a different wavelength. Michael Potts as well, I throw him into the conversation of him really overacting. And I love his character in this as the drunken uncle of the family. So I do feel very conflicted watching him on screen, because I'm like, oh, like, I'm enjoying what they're doing with this character, but he's taken me out of it a little bit. Like, let's dial it back down. And then you have someone like Ray Fisher, who really is unrecognizable in this, and I think he kind of plays the stage a bit too, but he also has some very surprising and tender moments in this movie that I really did not expect, and he was kind of a standout to me overall. But I really do think the standouts in this movie, I have to give Corey Hawkins a lot of credit, because he's great in literally everything. I've never seen him bad in a single project, and I think this is yet again another film that continues to prove why he's getting so many gigs, why he's done so much since Straight Outta Compton, because he's just one of the most reliable actors in the business. And I wish more people would give him an opportunity to get that moment to shine like a lot of other people have been lately, because this dude could really, I think, get nominated for an Oscar someday in the future. But not for this performance in particular, I don't think. And then, of course, you have Sam Jackson, who, going into this year, everyone thought he was going to win the Oscar for this, like, as a runaway favorite, because he was nominated for the same role on Broadway for the Tony, and I don't really think he gets as much as he could do with his portrayal of Doker in this. And even that being said, I think he's really great. He's great in virtually every scene he's in. He gets a couple of really good monologues, nothing that is going to, absolutely blow you away, but he's such a great actor and such a solid presence throughout this entire thing. And I really think anchors the central conflict in this as being a kind of middle ground between John David's boy Willie and Danielle Deadwyler's Bernice. And Danielle Deadwyler is really the one we should all be talking about here, because besides one moment where I did think she overacted slightly, this is what I think should be the performance to win Best Supporting Actress. She is absolutely amazing, and I am going to be pissed if the Academy snubs her again, just like they did for Till back in 2022-2023, because she is a powerhouse of a performer. The emotion that she draws out of this character, it is so visceral, it is so raw, it feels so real, and she's literally acting circles around everybody in the film, especially in the final, 15 minutes of this film. My goodness, this woman's on fire, and I really do think that it is hard to kind of turn your eye away from her when she's on screen, and turn your eye away from recognizing this performance, because this, in my opinion, is the performance that should go all the way, and I'm going to be absolutely pissed if she gets screwed out of another nomination, even though I think this movie is more likely than Till, per se, to get one. I also think that it is the film's only prospect to be nominated at all at the Oscars, and so I'm really rooting for her, because she absolutely deserves it, and she is literally the reason you watch this film. Full stop. And also, you're probably wondering, Erykah Badu is in this movie? Well, it's virtually a cameo. She's just a blues singer at a bar that they go to. And I thought that was kind of cool, though, especially considering Erykah Badu's influence, as much as she is in neo-soul. She definitely has a lot of those roots of that genre in her voice, and especially laced throughout her music. So I really did appreciate seeing her pop up in this movie. Shout out to Erykah Badu. And other than that, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to appreciate about The Piano Lesson, but I feel like it ultimately falls short of the greatness that was met by the other two adaptations, which I don't fully love, but are both really, really strong, like 8 out of 10 films, with some phenomenal performances across the board. And I think this one is just a lot more inconsistent, and you know, that's okay. Sometimes that happens. I appreciate a lot of the swings that the story took, and I appreciated virtually all the themes that this movie was diving into, even though it did feel a little undercooked and perhaps not entirely fleshed out narratively in the way it could have been. So I'm going to give The Piano Lesson a very strong 7 out of 10. I really did enjoy this movie while I was watching it. It's just not perfect, and you know, you're going to have to be the judge of that yourselves. It's been on Netflix for about a week now, so I do apologize for the timing of this review, but there's been so much this past week, especially the Glickett phenomenon, so I really had to get on those movies first. But I knew I wanted to get on here and give you guys my thoughts on the latest August Wilson adaptation. But you let me know what you think about The Piano Lesson down in the comments below. Are you going to watch it? Have you watched it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you feel like you were somewhere in the middle on it? Please let me know down in the comments below. And please smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. There's going to be more reviews of Netflix movies very soon, especially when Maria hits, you know, the Pablo Larraín film with Angelina Jolie, so stay on the lookout for that, but also many other reviews coming down the pipeline to you all, and until then, take it easy, and we'll talk soon.